Hi everyone. We are here to talk today about selecting a simple random sample using your table of random digits, okay? So first of all, your table of random digits, this is table D in the back of your textbook. So you can kind of refer to that, but a table of random digits, I want to talk to you about the table first. A table of random digits is just a string of numbers including digits 0 through 9. Each entry is equally likely to be any of the 10 digits. Each entry is independent of every other entry. So in other words, we are just like randomly selecting the digits 0 through 9. So it's kind of like if I had 10 pieces of paper, because 0 through 9, there's 10 digits, right? So if I have 10 pieces of paper and label them each with like a 0, and then another one with a 1, and then a 2, all the way up through 9, and if I put them in a hat, mixed them up, and then randomly selected a piece of paper, it's kind of like the first piece of paper I selected was a 1. And then I put that back in to the hat, mix it up real good, select another piece of paper. The second piece of paper I select is a 9. And then repeat that. Put that 9 back in, mix it up real good, pull out another number, and then I pick out a 2. Does that make sense? So in other words, I'm just like randomly selecting one-digit numbers, okay? So this is just really a long string of those one-digit numbers that have been randomly selected. But if we just gave you a long string of numbers, it would be really, really hard to read. So what tables of random digits just like kind of are formatted so that it's easier for you to read. So they're like in columns like this. See how like there's all these columns, right? So they're just kind of in groups of 5. Again, just so that it's easier for you to see. That space here, this space is not really meaningful, all right? Other than just for ease of you reading. Also, on the far left, you have line numbers. These are not random digits. This is not a part of the random digits. Again, this is just to kind of keep you organized for your reference so you can say, oh, I'm on line 105 or whatever. I'm on line 101 or whatever it might be, okay? So again, if I were to start reading off my random digits, so if I were to say I'm on line 101, my random digits are 1, 9, 2, 2, 3, 9, 5, 0. Like that gap doesn't mean anything. If I were to start on line 106, so if I were to say what are the random digits starting on line 106, it would be 6, 8, 4, 1, 7, 3, 5, 0, 1, 3, 1, 5, right? And then I would keep going. Now let's say I kept going and I got all the way to the end. Here I am, ready? 4, 7, 4, 8, 7. Now, I'm not out of random digits. I go to the next line. So my next random digit would be 8, 2, 7, 3, 9. I would just keep going and going and going. All right? So that is the table of random digits. Let's now talk about choosing an SRS. So yesterday we talked briefly about like what it would look or like the definition of an SRS and kind of some examples. Now we're going to go through how do you actually select an SRS. So you can either use technology or you can use the table of random digits we just looked at. To be honest, you in this class are not really going to be using technology to select an SRS, but just quickly, if you were going to, you would label each individual in the population with a distinct numerical label from 1 to n, where n is the number of individuals in the population. Then you use a random number generator, your calculator, something on the computer, whatever, to obtain lowercase n. So in other words, like your sample size, different integers, all right? Then you're going to select the individuals that correspond to those randomly selected integers that you've chosen. Again, like I said, we're not really going to be doing that in AP Stat. More realistically, we're going to use Table D. So the process is very similar. We're going to give each member of the population a distinct numerical label with the same number of digits. All right? Randomize. We're going to read consecutive groups of digits of the appropriate length from left to right across a line in Table D. That was our table of random digits we just looked at. We're going to ignore any group of digits that wasn't used as a label or that duplicates a label already in the sample. You're going to stop when you've chosen n different labels. And then you're going to select the individuals that correspond to the randomly selected integers that you've chosen. All right, so here's a word of caution. Yes, you will be asked to describe how you can use the table of random digits to select an SRS. And yes, in order to do so, you're going to do a lot of writing. So you're going to write like a good paragraph here, okay? It's going to be kind of repetitive, and every year my students say, oh my gosh, do I have to write this whole thing? The answer is yes, you have to write the whole thing. All right? Okay, so we're going to go through a quick example. This is number 1 in the sampling practice packet, so if you want to take a look. A campus newspaper plans a major article on spring break destinations. The authors intend to call a few randomly chosen resorts at a destination to ask about their attitudes towards groups of students as guests. Here are the resorts listed in one city. Use table D beginning at line 104 to choose an SRS of 5 resorts. Describe your process in detail. So actually, I'm sorry, we're going to use line 130. We're going to use line 130. So, like we just said in the directions, we are, where's my mouse? Okay, so we first start by taking our alphabetized list and giving each resort a number, a unique number. And each number has to have the same number of digits. So in this case, we have 28 resorts. So because we have 28 resorts, each resort has to have a 2-digit number. So in other words, you can't start at 1. Because if you start at 1, some of these are going to have like a 1-digit number, 1, you know what I mean? And then some of them are going to have 2-digit numbers like 14. So you have to start at 01, 02, 03. And you'll see why in a minute why that is going to be super important. Okay? Okay, sorry. So here is the line on the table of random digits, table D. So here's our line of our random string of digits. Again, remember, this is not the number, 69,051. These are individual digits, 6, 9, 0, 5, 1, 6, 4. The gap here is meaningless. It's just to help you read the table easier, okay? So what we're going to do is, since we've given every resort a 2-digit number, we're going to essentially break these digits up into 2-digit numbers. So the first 2 digits, 69. The next 2 digits, 0, 5. The next, 16. Remember, the gap is just to help you read the numbers. The 1 and the 6 are still going to go together. The next 2 digits, 48, 17, 87, etc., right? So we've taken that line of random digits, broken it down into 2-digit numbers, and then we're going to go through these 2-digit numbers one at a time. We start with the number 69. Well, I only have 28 resorts. I've only labeled up to number 28, so that number is going to be meaningless for me. I'm going to throw it out. My next number is 5. 0, 5, right? So 0, 5 matches up with one of my resorts, so we're going to keep it. The next number is 16. Again, it matches up with one of my resorts. We're keeping it. 48 is too big. It's outside, right, of my, the range of numbers that I need. My highest value is 28. 17, I keep it. 87, I throw it out. And then 17 is a repeat. So I'm going to also toss out repeats, okay? I've already selected 17, resort number 17, which is the Ramada. I can't select it again, right? So then ultimately, these are a whole bunch of numbers here, 84, 53, etc., that are over 28. So I'm throwing all these out until I get to this last one, which is 20. So that 20 gives me my 4th unique 2-digit number. So that's the key here. I'm looking for unique 2-digit numbers. between 0, 1, and 28. So it has to be on my list. It has to be between 0, 1, and 28. But when I get repeats, like these 17s, well, they don't actually give me a fourth resort, so I'm kind of throwing them out again too. All right? Okay, so our SRS of 4 hotels correspond to the numbers that we selected. 05 Beach Castle, 16 Radisson, 17 Ramada, 20 Sea Club. So now, like I said, we just went through the process of selecting our SRS. Now we have our SRS. Great. But remember our caution. You are going to be asked to describe or to explain how you use the table of random digits to select the SRS. If you are asked to do that, here's what you're going to write. You're going to say something like this. I would label each resort alphabetically with a unique 2-digit number from 01 to 28, right? That's the first thing. We labeled all these from 01 up to 28, right? And then step 2, I would select digits 2 at a time. So that's what we did, like essentially here, right? We selected digits 2 at a time until we have 4, sorry, this should say 4 unique 2-digit numbers between 0, 1, and 28. Unique is going to be important because remember we said like these 17s, even though they're 2-digit numbers between 0, 1, and 28, we already had a 17, so we need to kind of like throw that out. All right, so that's the second thing we did. The third thing is, well then, what's our random sample, our simple random sample? So third thing, these 5 numbers, that's this like blue section down here, are going to correspond to the 5 resorts that we're 4, sorry, I kept writing 5, that should be a 4. The 4 numbers should correspond to the 4 resorts that we're going to choose. All right? So I want to go back for a second, I want to go back for a second and talk just about labeling your population. So one of the steps that we talked about, clicking way back, was when we label our population, we want to use as few digits as possible. So that's the quick thing that I want to talk to you about, okay? So what that means is, like, for example, if I had only had maybe 7 resorts to choose from, so if I only had like 7 resorts in my population, I don't want to give them all 2-digit numbers because then I would be throwing out all the 2-digit numbers between 08 and 99, and I would be throwing out a ton of numbers. It would just take me so much longer. So I could really give each of these 7 resorts just a 1-digit number, you know, a 1-digit number, 1 through 7, or I could do 0 through 6. So quickly, for example, if I had 10 resorts, if I have 10 resorts in my population, again, I would label them with a 1-digit number from 0 through 9. All right? Once I get up to 11 resorts, though, if I have 11 resorts in my population, automatically we have to go to a 2-digit number. So 0, 1 through 11. Or you could do 0, 0 through 10, but it still has to be a 2-digit number. If I had 100 resorts in my population, well, then I can use 2-digit numbers still. I could go 0, 0 through 99. And again, I'm referring to labeling the population. That's that step 1. But as soon as I go to like 101 resorts, I need a 3-digit number, okay? So I could use like 000 through 100 or 001 through 101, right? But either way, as soon as I have 101 resorts, I need 3-digit numbers. If I have, you know, like let's say 1,243 resorts, I need 4-digit numbers. So I would label at like 0001 through 1243. So every hotel would get a 4-digit number. And then when I go to my random digits, I would break these up into 4 digits at a time. So 6905 would be my first 4-digit number. 1648 would be my second. 1787, right? So the whole idea, that's going to be the important part, the difference between like each example essentially, is that the important part is like you have to look at the population, just to go back here really fast and figure out how many digits do I have to use in order to label the population, and then in order accordingly to like break up my random digits. All right, so that's all I have for you with selecting an SRS. Go back, pause the video, rewatch if you need to, but these steps that we listed over here, these are very important. There's really no shortcutting this. You have to list all of those steps if you're asked to describe or explain how you would select an SRS. Thanks so much for watching.